Hi, my name is Charles R. Smith Jr., and this is a book talk for Stars in the Shadows, illustrated by Frank Morrison and written by me. The idea for Stars in the Shadows came years ago when I had a chance to visit the Negro League Baseball Museum in Kansas City, Missouri. It was a small museum, but it was really unique in that it had all these great artifacts and images of some of the great players from Negro League Baseball history. When I learned that there was an All-Star game, I thought it would make for a really unique and interesting book. Many people think the Negro Leagues was just made up of one league, similar to Major League Baseball. However, it was actually a collection of leagues spread in different regions around the country. Many of the teams took names similar to those of their white Major League Baseball counterparts. So you had a lot of different teams with Giants in the name, Sox in the name, that were adapted to the Negro League Baseball. There are three teams, however, in particular that really stand out as not only three of the most popular, but three of the teams that many of the major stars played for. You had the Pittsburgh Crawfords, the Homestead Grays, and the Kansas City Monarchs. There was a few differences between Major League Baseball and baseball in the Negro Leagues. But one of the primary differences, particularly in regular season games, was the entertainment factor. Even though the Negro League ball players were very skilled, equal to that of their Major League Baseball counterparts, the owners in Negro League Baseball didn't have the same deep pockets that Major League Baseball owners had. So they really had to rely on entertaining the fans so that anytime a Negro Leagues team came through that town, they would draw a big crowd to not only help sustain individual teams, but to help sustain the league as a whole. The big difference when it came to the All-Star game, there was actually a few. When the game began, the Negro National Anthem was sang, which was officially known as Lift Every Voice and Sing. The players themselves were voted in by fans around the country through the Chicago Defender newspaper. It was the first time that this had been done. It proved so popular that Major League Baseball actually adopted it for their All-Star game. Last but not least, the game took place in Chicago, Illinois every year. The primary reason being that it was centrally located to access by train from all parts of the country. So no matter where you were, you could always take a train and get yourself to Chicago. Now, as far as the actual game went, it was the hottest ticket around and the place to be if you were a player voted onto the All-Star team. Musicians, movie stars, actors, actresses, they were all there in full force to cheer on their favorite Negro League ball players. The first thing I had to decide on was how was I going to tell the story. I decided to have the narrator be a radio broadcaster, because I was thinking, you know, if people aren't at the game watching it, how else they're going to learn what's going on? There was no TV back then, but radio was really popular. Not only would it give me a chance to give you the play-by-play in a unique way, it would also give me a chance to create some commercials and jingles to advertise made-up local businesses, which would show a connection to the community and the importance that Negro League Baseball had at this time in Chicago. Thankfully, there was a ton of material. Between visiting the Negro League Baseball Museum in Kansas City, Missouri, between watching movies and reading books and listening to music from that time, I was able to really tap into the time period and unique players to tell this story. One of my primary resources was a book that focused strictly on the All-Star game. It had the very first game to the very last game. Life in 1934 was obviously a lot different than it is today. A half a gallon of milk could be bought for 22 cents, 10 pounds of potatoes could be bought for 23 cents, and a pack of bacon could be bought for 29 cents. Now, unfortunately, this was the time of the Depression. That means that there were more people out of work than there was that actually worked. But it wasn't all terrible. It was the time of Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig breaking records in Major League Baseball. And in the Negro Leagues, you had Josh Gibson and Satchel Paige carrying the mantle for the black player. The commercials in the book serve two purposes. The first is to put the Negro League games and the Negro League Baseball League into a context. Nowadays, we only have Major League Baseball, and players of all nationalities and colors can play. But back then, that was not the case. So, to show that this happened in a different time period, I needed to create some commercials to show some of the styles, some of the cost, and some of the everyday living that existed back then. So one of the jingles was for a supermarket to show the price of certain items that we're used to, like bacon, milk, potatoes, things like that. Another was for a men's clothing store to talk about the style of dress that was popular back then. Another was for a music club to show the type of music that was popular at the time. And then a few of the other ones focused on local businesses, which were key to supporting the Negro Leagues at that time. I had a lot of fun in creating the commercials, and many of the names for the businesses come from my own personal life. In the case of one of the businesses, Sweet Amelia's Soul Cuisine, Amelia was the name of my grandmother. In the case of Smitty's Southside Shears, my father and even his father, their nickname was Smitty. So the challenge was to not only make it believable, but help the reader get into the context and that frame of mind that this is a different time period. And putting them into the radio broadcast not only made it believable, but allowed us to be transported to that time period. To show how important Negro League Baseball was at the time to black people, I decided to create a section in the book called Fans in the Stands. Individually, certain fans have a connection with certain players. One player in particular, I think it's Jimmy Crutchfield, is a small player. So his fan is a little small boy. And he talks about being inspired by Jimmy because even though he's small, he still does well on the ball field. So the kid can take inspiration from that. I hope you enjoyed this book talk for Stars in the Shadows. The end of the book has more information that I didn't cover here, so check it out.